So if you're struggling to get through your workouts, what would you do?
When I'm struggling, during workouts, which I do a lot, I do struggle a lot, especially when I'm by myself. I try to, number one, tell myself that it's okay to struggle. And then number two, I try to remind myself of what my original goal was. Like, am I here to, just move around? Am I here to work on a certain movement? Like, what was my intent? And I try to remind myself of my intent, and then just kind of work through that. So taking that kind of mental clarity break in the middle of my workout really helps me kind of reevaluate and recenter and refocus when I feel like I'm starting to struggle.
Okay. And what advice would you tell someone else if they were struggling to get through their workouts?
If you're struggling during your workout, I think communication with your coach is number one, especially if you're in a group class. Take advantage of the fact that you have a coach there who can guide you. Tell them how you feel, what are you struggling with, and then make adjustments from there. If you're by yourself, then maybe do something similar to what I do, which is kind of reevaluate, refocus, and don't be so hard on yourself. Don't make the workout impossible to do. I think that's one thing that happens is people try to really push themselves, in those instances where you might already be struggling. So just kind of reevaluating that and then, pushing forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of people, when they're first starting to work out or they're working on their own, is that a lot of people work out and they don't have a coach. So they're either following something that they see on Instagram, YouTube, or just some program that they found online. And while that's good and all that they have some sort of structure, that when you have a coach can take out all these other variables, because a lot of times that you don't know if you're doing enough or if you're doing too little. And what a coach will do is help you ride that line, that threshold of where you're pushing yourself hard enough to where you won't burn out, but you're also pushing yourself hard enough to where you're actually going to see progress. Yeah. Because we all both know that if you don't, work out with enough intensity or enough volume or frequency, that the progress is going to come a lot slower. And obviously on the opposite end, if that you're going way too hard and you're doing way too much volume and way too much intensity and way too much frequency, you're also going to stunt your gains. Mm-hmm. So it's a fine line to ride, and a coach will help you find that line.
Yeah. And I think when in doubt, if you are by yourself, less is always more. So doing less exercises, meaning less variables, right? Just kind of do one and do a lot of reps.
Do more reps.
A lot of reps. Don't make it too hard to where you're only getting like less than 50 reps in. Make it easy enough to where you will definitely get 100 reps in. And then with good form and quality and whatnot, I think that is like the best thing people can do.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next question. So if you're coaching someone and they were really sore, what is the best thing that they should do?
Gosh, so many things come from soreness. There's just so many different avenues you can take. For me personally, when in doubt, when I'm sore, I think about my recovery. So I think about, okay, how much sleep am I going to get tonight? How much water and food have I eaten today and will eat tomorrow? Because that really helps aid in recovery, is food and water, right?
What kind of food?
Calorie dense food, definitely getting in a lot of protein. And honestly, I really focus on fat too. I make sure I get enough fat in, because I find that my energy levels really dips when I'm sore, and eating enough protein and fat really aids in my recovery. Personally. So I start thinking about that. Definitely move around. I get a lot of, steps in already, but I think good blood flow is important to flush out bad blood. I wouldn't say bad blood, but like all the lactic acid buildup and all that stuff, kind of like flush it out. So movement, steps, and then start thinking about, those recovery aspects, which would be sleep, stress, and nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just to piggyback off the same thing, is that the first thing I would do is go for a walk, just to kind of get some blood flow going and stimulate that recovery. Then I would focus on protein. Because usually if you're sore, the muscle's breaking down, so you need protein to repair that. And then healthy carbs, so like sweet potato, rice, and then definitely focus on a good night's sleep. That's for sure. Those mean my top go-to when I'm really sore. And then from there, reevaluate and make sure that my training is or make sure that if I was training a client that their training was adequate or not, I'm not overdoing it with the design of their program.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody kind of does this when they get sore. They rest, right? And I put that in quotes.
Nothing.
and when I say rest, they're actually not resting. They're just doing nothing. They're not aiding in their recovery. They're not trying to benefit themselves in any way. They're not stretching. They're not sleeping. So what are you really doing? You're doing nothing, right? So don't just, quote unquote, rest. Make sure you are actively doing something to rest.
Yes. Absolutely. All right. And last one, what advice would you give someone to stay motivated to work out?
Oh gosh, motivation. That is always a tricky one. Just yesterday, I remember telling you, I feel very unmotivated today. And this is after I worked out already. I usually like to do other things afterwards because I usually feel more motivated. But yesterday I was struggling with a little bit of unmotivation. How do you stay motivated? You think about the long-term goals, like what are you in it for? And I think once you get to the point where you know that you're in this for health and overall well-being, it's much easier to know that like you did something to benefit your mental state for the day. And so just kind of like reminding yourself of, that's why I'm in this. That's why I'm doing this. Not necessarily always for the physical benefits.
Right.
But I think, hindering back or going back to what is the bigger picture, zooming out and, reevaluating your motivational factors.
Yeah. And going off that is my personal formula for how I stay motivated is that, and I think that this can apply to anyone, is let me say that again. I think the best formula to stay motivated is to find someone you care a lot about, and then figure out how your success impacts them, and then don't let them down. I think it's that simple, because when you bring it to an external factor, or when you bring it when you make it about a loved one, you're more likely to follow through. Mm-hmm. So for example, like it's a lot easier for me to sacrifice myself, and a lot of people find it that way. They can sacrifice their own health, their own time, their own fitness to serve other people. But when you realize that your success in fitness, health, and mental clarity will benefit them, it makes it 10 times more motivating, because the other person will benefit from this.
Yes, absolutely. It's all fun and games until it comes down to the point where you can't do anything. Like you can't give of yourself anymore because you didn't take care of yourself in the beginning.
Exactly. And we see this happen all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's something you definitely want to avoid.
Yes.
All right. Cool.